They told everyone I was a failure. I proved them wrong. Now they want back in. I hadn't seen most of them in nearly 5 years. Not since the last time they made it clear I didn't belong. But there I was, standing at the doorway of my mother's birthday dinner, dressed in a navy blue pantsuit, hair pulled back, heels firm on the ground, and a calm smile on my face. They all looked up at once. Forks paused in midair. Conversation stopped. I could feel their eyes scanning me, not just my outfit, but my posture, my presence, the quiet confidence I'd earned. For the first time in my life, they didn't know what to say. Funny how people can forget how they treated you until success walks through the door and reminds them. I was the family disappointment, the what happened to her girl, the one they always brought up as an example of what not to become. I heard the comments. I saw the glances. I felt the weight of being constantly compared to my cousins with their shiny degrees, big weddings, and picture-perfect lives. But none of them knew what I was building in silence. None of them saw the nights I cried myself to sleep in a cheap studio apartment, or the mornings I forced myself to believe I was worth something, even when no one else did. And now they want back in. They smile like they've always been proud. They ask questions like they care, but I remember the silence. I remember the shame. I didn't come here to prove anything, but the look on their faces, that was enough. My name is Angela Brooks. I'm 38 years old. I live in Austin, Texas. And this is the story of how I went from being the forgotten daughter to the woman no one can stop talking about. But don't get it twisted. This isn't a fairy tale. This is about strategy, silence, and revenge served in the most elegant way. If you were in my place, would you let them back into your life? Or would you keep your distance? Let me know in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more stories like this one. I didn't always feel like an outsider. There was a time, maybe when I was 7 or 8, when I truly believed I was part of something. I remember sitting on the porch during summer cookouts, eating popsicles with my cousins, laughing like we were all equal. But that illusion didn't last long. As we got older, something shifted. They began to shine, and I began to fade. My cousin Rachel got accepted into Yale. Eric was the star athlete. Marissa had her own Etsy shop by 16 and was already being praised as the little entrepreneur of the family. And me? I was the quiet one, the one who wrote poems no one read, the one who got B's and C's, the one who didn't quite have direction. I was never rebellious. I wasn't a troublemaker. But somehow, I became the disappointment anyway. They masked it with politeness, of course. That southern charm. Those little comments wrapped in smiles. Oh, honey, maybe college just isn't for everyone. Angela's just finding herself. You know who she reminds me of? Aunt Jo. Remember how she never really got her life together either? I pretended not to hear, but I heard every word. And the worst part? My own mother stayed silent. She never defended me, never corrected them. She just lowered her eyes or changed the subject. That silence? It was louder than all the rest. The doubts didn't come all at once. They crept in slowly. It started in community college. I was working nights at a diner to pay for classes, barely staying awake in lectures. I failed my statistics course twice. I remember sitting on the bathroom floor one night, holding my grade report, feeling like I had no future. I dropped out the next semester, told everyone I needed a break, that I'd go back soon. But deep down, I felt like they'd been right about me all along. After that, I stopped showing up to family events. I deleted the group chat. I avoided birthdays, holidays, weddings. If they noticed, no one called. No one asked if I was okay. To them, I had disappeared. And for a while, I believed maybe I should. But even in that darkness, something inside me refused to die. A little spark. A whisper that said, "They don't know you. Not really, but you do. And you are not done yet." I just didn't know, at the time, how much I would have to lose before I could rise. For a long time, I thought the worst thing they did was ignore me. Turns out, it was what they said about me when I wasn't around. I had been out of touch with the family for over a year when I got a text from Denise, an old friend from high school who happened to work with my cousin Rachel. "Hey, I overheard something today at lunch. Thought you should know. It didn't sit right with me." She sent a voice memo. I stared at it for a long time before pressing play. Rachel's voice came through first, casual, confident. She was always a mess. I mean, Angela couldn't even finish community college. I think she's doing Uber Eats now or something. Then another voice. I couldn't tell who. I heard she lives in a trailer now. Probably hooked on something. You know how those people end up. Rachel again. She's just one of those people who drain you, you know? She sucks the air out of the room. Total dead weight. The audio ended. My hands were shaking. Dead weight. I hadn't spoken to Rachel in years. I'd never done anything to her, except not be like her. And yet, this was what she told people. This was how they spoke about me when they thought no one was listening. And the worst part? She wasn't wrong about some things. I had delivered food. I was living in a crumbling old RV at the edge of town. After leaving school, I'd tried one dead-end job after another. Retail, admin, waitressing. Nothing stuck. I was drowning in medical debt from a minor surgery I couldn't afford. There were nights I went to bed with nothing but crackers in the cupboard. But I was never hooked on anything, never lazy, and never dead weight. I was surviving, alone, with no help, no backup plan, no family dinners, no check-in texts. I replayed the voice memo 5 times that night. Each time, it hit harder. It wasn't just gossip. It was cruelty, dismissal, erasure, the kind that doesn't come from strangers, but from people who share your blood. It cracked something open in me. That night, I didn't cry. I made a list. Not a list of enemies. A list of goals. Things no one believed I could do. Get certified in something valuable. Find one mentor. Start a business. Pay off my debt. Leave this town. It was the beginning of a plan I didn't even realize I was forming. They thought they had written my story, but I was about to become the author. It's one thing to feel forgotten. It's another thing entirely to realize you were never just forgotten. You were discarded. At first, I thought I was being dramatic. That maybe I was just overly sensitive to the silences, the looks, the half-hearted hugs at family gatherings. I told myself that maybe they were just busy, just distracted. That maybe I was reading too much into it. But deep down, I always had a feeling. Something wasn't right. And that feeling became certainty the day I received that message from Denise. I was sitting in the corner of a library, using their free Wi-Fi to apply for jobs. It was a gray Thursday afternoon. I remember because it had just started raining, and I had left my coat in the car. My fingers were stiff with cold as I typed out yet another cover letter that would likely be ignored. Then my phone buzzed. It was a message from Denise, an old friend from high school who I hadn't seen in years. She worked in marketing now, and by coincidence she had recently joined the same firm as my cousin Rachel. Her message said, "Hey, this might be weird, but I overheard Rachel talking at work today. I don't know what's going on between you two, but it didn't feel right. I thought you should know." Attached was a voice memo. I hesitated. My heart started pounding before I even pressed play. And then I heard it. Rachel's voice. Calm, polished, that condescending tone she had perfected over the years. "Angela? Oh, she's kind of the sad one in the family. Always struggling. I think she delivers food now. Or maybe she's doing temp work. Honestly, I try not to keep up. It's exhausting." Another woman chimed in. "Didn't she drop out of school? I heard she's living in, like, a trailer or something?" Rachel laughed. "That wouldn't surprise me. Honestly, she's always been kind of dead weight. One of those people who drain the room just by existing." I froze. The air around me disappeared. It was like being kicked in the stomach, except you're not allowed to make a sound because you're in public. So instead, you just sit there, staring at a wall, trying to breathe. I played it again, and again, 5 times in a row. Each time the words hit harder, not because they were shocking, but because they confirmed every quiet suspicion I'd been trying to bury for years. This wasn't just one cousin making a mean comment. This was the truth about how they saw me, the entire family, a burden, a failure, an afterthought. And it didn't matter how hard I had been trying, how many nights I had stayed awake researching how to rebuild my life, how many hours I'd spent working double shifts, applying for jobs, trying to find something to hold on to. None of that mattered to them. All they saw was a person they could mock, judge, and forget. That night, I sat in my car, that old, wheezing 2007 Corolla I was 2 months behind on payments for, and stared out the windshield into the rain. I didn't cry, not a single tear. It was like my body had gone numb. But inside me, something shifted. It wasn't rage, exactly. It was resolve, because if they were going to see me as dead weight, then I'd show them what happens when dead weight decides to rise. I opened my notes app and started writing. Not insults, not comebacks, plans. Find a skill I can monetize. Build something of my own, no matter how small. Pay off my debts. Become someone they can't ignore and don't deserve. That list became my blueprint. It gave me something to hold on to, something no one could take from me. I was done asking for permission to be seen, done apologizing for not being who they wanted me to be. That voice memo? It didn't break me. It activated me. They had lit a fire, and now I was going to let it burn. You'd think the hardest part was hearing what they said about me, but it wasn't. The hardest part was realizing I believed them, not just in passing, not just for a moment. No, for years their words had lived inside me, quiet, steady, invisible, like mold in the walls of a house you're trying to fix. And no matter how many times I told myself I was strong, smart, capable, I never really felt it. Because deep down I thought, what if they're right? What if I am the failure? What if there really is something broken in me? After that voice memo, I went into survival mode. I stopped checking social media, stopped texting anyone. I worked nonstop. I ate whatever was cheap. I cut out every distraction, even the few good people who cared about me, because I didn't want anyone to see me like that, like a person who had been reduced to scraps of self-worth. There was one night, I remember it vividly, where I sat on the floor of my RV, eating instant oatmeal straight from the packet, because I didn't have hot water or electricity. My laptop had died hours earlier. I had one candle burning in the corner. I looked around and thought, this can't be it. This can't be my life. But it was. That was the moment I let myself feel everything. The shame, the exhaustion, the anger, the heartbreak of realizing that the people who were supposed to catch you when you fall sometimes just step over you and keep walking. I thought about all the times I showed up for them, babysitting their kids, buying birthday gifts I couldn't afford, applauding their graduations, weddings, promotions, even when I had nothing. And not once, not one single time, had anyone shown up for me. I remembered the family barbecue 2 summers before I disappeared. I had just lost my second job in a month. I was spiraling. I showed up anyway, hoping to feel normal for a few hours. I sat there holding a plate of food I could barely eat while Rachel and Eric talked about their new investment properties. Aunt Linda made a joke about, some people just don't know how to manage money. Everyone laughed. I laughed too, and I hated myself for it. I felt like I was watching my life from the outside, like I was the extra in someone else's movie. After I left that day, I cried so hard I had to pull over on the side of the highway. I screamed into the steering wheel like a woman possessed. No one ever called to ask why I left early. No one even noticed. So when I say I hit rock bottom, I don't mean financially. I mean emotionally, spiritually, existentially. There's a kind of pain that makes you question whether you were ever real to the people around you, whether they ever truly saw you, or just projected whatever version of you fit their comfort. That pain is clarifying, because once you realize you're alone, truly alone, you stop waiting to be rescued. You learn to become your own rescue team, and that's what I did. I picked myself up, not because I felt ready, but because I knew no one was coming. I got a job cleaning offices at night. Not glamorous, but it paid cash, and the silence gave me time to think. I listened to podcasts about business, marketing, freelance work. I read everything I could get my hands on at the library. Not novels, not distractions, but strategy. I was building something, in silence, in shadows. And for the first time in years, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Focus. The pain was still there, but now it had a purpose. I wasn't going to get even. I was going to get better. And one day, they'd see it. Not because I needed their validation. I had already buried that need. But because the girl they tried to forget, She was becoming unforgettable. The funny thing about rebuilding your life is no one notices at first. They only start paying attention after it's already standing. But I wasn't doing this for attention. I was doing it because I was done being seen as a failure. Not by them, by me. So I started with what I had, which wasn't much. A prepaid phone, a library card, a pair of sneakers with a hole in the sole. But I also had something more valuable than any of that. A clean slate. No expectations. No one watching. No one caring if I failed again. That kind of invisibility, it becomes a superpower. I signed up for a free online course in virtual assistants. I figured, if I was already doing admin tasks in person, why not learn to do them online and work for myself? I studied every night after my cleaning shifts. I'd be up until 3 a.m., watching webinars and taking notes in a spiral-bound notebook I'd found in a clearance bin. Within 3 weeks, I had my first client, a real estate agent in Denver who needed someone to manage her calendar and emails. She paid me $10 an hour. It wasn't much, but it was mine. From there, it snowballed. I joined freelancing platforms. I polished my resume. I learned how to write compelling proposals. I took on projects no one else wanted, just to get 5-star reviews. Each time I got paid, I split the money 3 ways. 1. Rent and food. 2. Emergency savings. 3. Investment in myself. Books, better Wi-Fi, a refurbished laptop. I still lived in the RV, still ate instant noodles half the week, still wore the same old jeans and hoodie every day. But something had changed. I no longer felt like a failure. I was building a business, quietly, intentionally, and for the first time, I felt proud of myself. Not because anyone else said I should be, but because I knew how hard I was working. And as my business grew, so did my mindset. I stopped blaming myself for their cruelty. I stopped needing their approval, and I started thinking ahead. That's when the idea for my revenge, no, my justice, began to take shape. Not loud, not dramatic, not a confrontation, but a moment, a scene. I pictured it clearly. Me walking into a room where they least expected me, polished, poised, unrecognizable, their jaws tightening, their eyes widening, the tension so thick you could slice it, but no anger. No bitterness. Just me, smiling, because I knew everything they didn't. It wouldn't be about proving them wrong. It would be about showing myself that I was right to believe in me. And when that moment came, they would want back in. They always do. When you're broken, they look away. But when you shine, they try to rewrite the story. Oh, we always knew she'd pull through. She just needed time. She was always so resilient. I wouldn't correct them. I wouldn't argue, because the best kind of revenge is when you don't need to say a single word. You just show up and watch them squirm in their own false memories. So I kept working, tirelessly, quietly, smartly, and slowly. My name began to carry weight. I became a sought-after VA for small business owners. Then I launched my own digital agency. I hired 2 assistants, created a website, opened a business account. Within 18 months, I had gone from food stamps to 6 figures, from forgotten to self-made. And that's when I got the message. From Rachel. Hey girl! Long time no talk. Just saw your site. So proud of you. You've really come a long way. We're planning a dinner for Mom's birthday. Would love to see you. Let me know. I stared at the message for a long time and smiled, because they didn't see the work. They only saw the shine. Exactly as I planned. What would you do in Angela's place? Would you go to that family dinner or leave the message on read? Let me know in the comments. And if you're still with me, don't forget to subscribe, because this story is only just heating up. I didn't respond to Rachel's message right away. I let it sit for 2 days, unread, not because I was unsure, but because I wanted her to feel the delay, to wonder if I'd changed my number, if I'd blocked her, if I even cared. On the 3rd day, I replied with a single line. Sure, I'll be there. She responded in under a minute. Yay! So excited! Can't wait to catch up. Funny. Just a year earlier, I wouldn't have been welcome within 10 feet of that table. Now suddenly I was missed. Suddenly they were so proud. But I wasn't going there for small talk. I was going to deliver something they'd never forget, not a speech. Not a confrontation, but a presence. The kind of presence that makes people nervous. Not because of what you say, but because of what they know they've done. I planned everything, down to the details. A slate gray wrap dress. Elegant, simple. Gold earrings. A watch I bought after my agency hit its first 100K. Hair down, sleek. Light makeup. Clean, effortless. No flashing wealth, no overcompensation. Just undeniable poise. I parked 3 houses down from my mother's that evening. Walked in calm, steady steps. I could already hear voices and laughter from the porch. When I stepped through the door, it was like a movie scene. Conversation stopped mid-sentence. Heads turned. Glasses paused in midair. Rachel was the first to speak. "Angela, oh my God, look at you." She came toward me with open arms. I smiled and let her hug me. She smelled like too much perfume and desperation. I looked around the room. Familiar faces, familiar judgments hiding behind fake smiles. Aunt Linda, Uncle Joe, Cousin Marissa, all the ones who just didn't know how to help when I vanished from family events. Now they wanted to sit next to me. Now they asked, "How's your business going? You always were so creative. We're just thrilled for you, truly." But I knew what they were really thinking. How did she pull this off? How did someone like her get ahead? I answered politely, smiled at their questions, gave short, curated replies. Business is good. Yes, I work for myself now. No husband yet. Just focused. The more I spoke, the quieter the room became. Because my success wasn't just about money, it was about command. I wasn't trying to impress them. I was making them uncomfortable with how unbothered I was. They expected a show, a tearful reunion, maybe a thank you for their sudden support. What they got was composure. And that was more powerful than any revenge speech could ever be. But the real moment, the one I'd been waiting for, came after dinner. We were sitting in the living room, cake plates half full, coffee being passed around. Rachel leaned in casually, as if we were close. "So, listen, I was thinking, since you're doing so well now, maybe you could give Marissa some advice. She's launching her own little side hustle. You're kind of the expert now." And just like that, there it was. The shift, from forgotten failure to useful asset. I looked over at Marissa, who couldn't even meet my eyes. And I realized they didn't change because they grew. They changed because they saw value. To them, I wasn't a person. I was leverage. That's when I knew. I'd played this exactly right. I smiled. "Oh, that's sweet, but I'm actually not taking on anything new at the moment. My time is pretty limited these days." Rachel blinked. "Oh, yeah, of course. Just thought I'd ask." She tried to laugh it off, but the discomfort in the room was undeniable. They had reached out with a hook, and I didn't bite. Not because I was cruel, but because I didn't owe them anything. This was the calm before the storm, the final breath before the chapter closed. They thought they had me back. What they didn't know was, I'd never come back to stay. A week after that dinner, I received a group message from Rachel. A new group chat. Family ladies. I actually laughed out loud when I saw it. Me included. After all these years, suddenly, I was one of the ladies. Not because I belonged, but because I was useful. The messages poured in over the next few days. "We should plan a girls' trip. Angela, you have to help me with my business logo. We need your input. You're the boss babe now." Boss babe. That's what they were calling me now. A year ago, they would have called me a mess behind my back. But they thought I didn't remember. They thought I'd come running just because they were finally acknowledging me. They had no idea that their approval meant nothing to me anymore. That's when I knew it was time, not to lash out, not to expose them, but to free myself, permanently. I decided to host a brunch, my treat. To reconnect, I wrote. To celebrate new chapters. They were all thrilled. We met at a beautiful cafe downtown. High ceilings, real linen napkins, fresh flowers at every table. The kind of place I used to walk past and wonder if I'd ever be the kind of woman who belonged inside. Now I was. And I made sure they knew it. I arrived early, took the best table, ordered a mimosa. When they showed up, overdressed, overly enthusiastic, I stood to greet them like a gracious host. We chatted, ate, laughed. They asked about my business. I gave them only what I wanted to give. They tried to pry into my love life. I redirected gracefully. But as the meal wound down, I leaned in, calm, clear, direct. I just wanted to say thank you. They all looked up, smiling. Thank you, I repeated, for making me invisible. Rachel blinked. What? If you hadn't dismissed me, I might have stayed small. If you hadn't excluded me, I wouldn't have learned to stand on my own. Your silence gave me the space to grow without noise, without pressure, without fake love. The table was silent. You were right. I was struggling. I was lost. And you all made sure I knew it. Aunt Linda started to fidget. Marissa picked at her napkin. But here's the thing, I said. I didn't need you then, and I don't need you now. I smiled. And I forgive you, truly. But I won't forget. I stood and placed my card on the tray. This was my treat. Consider it a thank you gift for teaching me exactly who I never want to become. And with that, I walked out. No drama, no scene. Just freedom. I didn't block them. I didn't send angry messages. I just stopped responding because I had already said everything I needed to. And the most powerful part? I knew they'd talk about that brunch for years. Try to rewrite it. Try to make sense of it. Try to tell themselves it didn't sting. But it did. Because nothing unsettles people more than a woman who doesn't need their validation anymore. That was my final blow. No revenge post, no public fallout, just dignity, distance, and the kind of peace they will never understand. A few days after that brunch, I sat on the balcony of my apartment. Yes, apartment. Not trailer, not RV, not borrowed couch. Sipping a cup of strong black coffee. The sun was setting, casting long golden lines across the floor. I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Stillness. Not the kind that comes from silence, but the kind that comes from closure. I didn't check the family group chat. I didn't respond to the photos Rachel sent from her beach vacation. I didn't return the text from my mother that simply said, "Glad to see you're doing better." Better? I was doing miraculously, but I no longer needed her, or anyone else, to say it out loud. I thought about the girl I used to be, the one who cried in secret after family gatherings, the one who smiled through passive-aggressive comments, the one who begged, in quiet, invisible ways, to be seen. She's gone now, not erased, but honored. She carried me through the worst days of my life, and I love her for that. But I don't need her anymore. I've become someone new, someone who walks into rooms without shrinking, someone who chooses peace over proving a point, someone who knows that the most powerful kind of revenge is no longer needing one. I built a life I'm proud of, from the ground up, without shortcuts, without applause, and most importantly, without them. Sometimes people ask me if I regret walking away, if I ever get lonely, and the truth is, yes, sometimes. But I would rather be alone in my truth than surrounded by people who only want me when I'm convenient. I used to think family was something sacred, unbreakable, but now I know family is not about blood, it's about behavior. And when people show you who they are, over and over again, you have two choices: break yourself to fit their mold, or break free. I chose to break free. And in doing so, I didn't just reclaim my story, I rewrote it. They told everyone I was a failure. Now they tell everyone they always knew I had it in me. Let them have their version, because I have mine, and mine is the one that matters. Have you ever had to walk away from people who were supposed to love you? Did you ever have to rebuild your life in silence, without support, without recognition, without anyone clapping for you? Tell me in the comments. I'd love to hear your story. And if this story touched you, if it reminded you of your strength, your worth, your voice, share it with a friend, a sister, someone who needs to hear it right now. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because there are so many more stories to tell. And trust me, they're just getting started. Thank you for listening. Thank you for seeing me. My name is Angela Brooks, and I am not a failure. Not anymore. Not ever again.